In order to equalize successfully, you must first know what exactly you are trying to accomplish. Don't equalize unless you have a particular reason to do so. There are two main reasons to equalize a sound: to avoid masking or to change the character of the sound. Masking is a phenomenon that occurs when you have multiple sounds playing simultaneously that occupy similar frequency ranges. It causes one or both of the sounds involved to be partially or entirely obscured. Masking is more pronounced in low frequencies. The lower you go, the more space your sound needs to retain clarity. One of the most common and often discussed masking related problems is the interaction of kick drums and bass lines. In a typical pop or dance tune, the kick drum and the bass line together contain most of the low end of the music, and getting them not to interfere with each other is a constant problem for producers. If insufficient attention is paid to the interaction of the kick and bass, then you may end up with a messy low end. The same sorts of problems can occur across the frequency range. You can get away with more in the mid-range and treble than you can in the bass, but ultimately you will always have to worry about masking. To avoid masking, the most important thing is to simply select your sounds such that you avoid frequency range overlaps. Don't use two sounds that compete for the same frequency range. Those two sounds will never sound good together no matter what you do to them. If sound selection is your most important tool in fighting masking, then your most important tool is equalization. With EQ, you can remove or de-emphasize non-essential components of a sound and emphasize the important ones. In this way, you can reduce the effects of masking by deciding what sounds will dominate each frequency range. To cause a sound to dominate in a given frequency range, cut other sounds in that frequency range and/or boost the dominating sound in that frequency range. Most sounds have energy across the majority of the audible spectrum, but with most of their energy focused in one or more critical frequency ranges. These critical frequency ranges are the essence of the sound, and are typically the parts of it that will be heard clearly in the context of the mix. If you want a sound to be heard clearly in a mix, then you need to make sure that it dominates in its most important critical ranges. Thus, the ideal approach to avoiding masking is this: pick sounds that do not step on each other's critical ranges, arrange your sounds so that their critical ranges fill out the frequency spectrum with minimum overlap, then equalize your sounds, only as necessary to emphasize their critical ranges and to de-emphasize non-essential frequencies when they detract from the clarity of the mix. Besides avoiding masking, equalization can be used to change the general character of a sound. It can remove or de-emphasize undesirable sound components, such as mud or resonance. It can also change the balance of desirable sound components, usually critical ranges. It can add sparkle to cymbals, impact to drums, and presence or fullness to instrumental lines, all by boosting or cutting different critical ranges. The boosts or cuts that one will use when changing the balance of critical ranges often depend on the desired psychological effect of the part.